Welcome to All Dwarves Are Dead. Yes, that's right. You heard it. I made my own TTRPG, tabletop role-playing game system. Well, it's a little manual, a 28-pager actually, but I just did it in a couple of days. So anyway, let's get to it. An age ago, demons from the deep dark returned to claim their part of the bargain from the dwarves after filling their caverns with jewels and riches beyond comprehension. When the dwarf king reneged on his part of the deal, the darkest curse of all had just begun. It's been 200, did I make a right amount of fingers? Yes, 200 years since the last pure-blooded dwarf died. Only bastardized incarnations of that legacy remain. So welcome to All Dwarves Are Dead. This creation is a simplified role-playing system set in a fantasy realm using my easy core mechanic. And that was where the whole idea came from and why it was so easy just to write. Because if you've done anything, and this is just a game basically for people who can come in, they don't want a lot of hoopla, spending 28 days, you want to set up your character in like 2 minutes and then go. Let's do it. And there is, more extendable playability. Let me explain the core system. Under the core system, basically you'll have skills that you'll choose and gain as you progress after game sessions. And when you're proficient in the skill, you need to roll a 7 or higher. So like if you have a weapon class that allows you to use axes and swords, then all you need to, when you want to hit with it, it's not based upon their armor class because that's not really a thing in this game. You roll to see how well you can just strike them. And so when you roll a 7 or higher. If you weren't trained in that particular weapon or whatever you're using, then you'll need a 17 or higher. So the difference is about a 50% ratio. So you only have a 20% chance to hit or succeed. Like let's say you choose athletics as one of your skills and you need to jump across a chasm or maybe climb a tree or something very sheer to get away from something. Then if you're trained in it, you need a 7 or higher. If you're not trained in it, you're going to need a 17 or higher. And that's how everything works in the game. And that's how easy it is. There are 6 races in my system. There are human, elf, half-elf, peck, saurian, and half-dwarf. So that's what's in this world. And I have it set up just real quick. If you want to jump into it, you can choose one of those races, or you can just roll the D20, or the system's called the die. And if you roll a 1 through 3, you're a human, and so on and so forth. Depending on what the number is, you can just be that character. So let me give you an example here. So let's say you just want to roll, or maybe you choose, and you end up being a saurian. So saurians, you're a scaly reptilian humanoid whose slithery tongue and jutting teeth make it difficult to speak common. You have large, unblinking eyes that resemble polished opals that are, probably darkened, but you can choose. I didn't say. The GM and you can come up with that stuff. I let you be your own master of this game. This is all a guideline, but a usable manual for a system. Okay, so you have a fairly lengthy tail, which is mostly useless, but it does grant you and help you, aid you in one special ability. All Saurian can river stride as per the spell, and you can see the spells under that. And basically, if you're a spellcaster and you cast river stride, or if you're just a Saurian, you basically can walk across any liquid surface if you choose. You can sink down if you want, but if you want to, you can just walk straight across it. Pretty handy natural ability. In Saurians, in my game, you have a set number of hit points you start off with. Most people start off at max anyway when they play first level things to be nice, unless you're playing a really OSR, and then they're cruel. It's like, roll a d6. You rolled a 1. Best of luck to you. And sometimes those are fun, But even the hit points things, that can be done, it's all GM. What is your game master and what do your players like, You're not bound to any of this, but this is kind of how my system works. Okay, so you have your race, and now you're going to choose one of the 3 weapon classes. You're either going to have hack and slash, which uses swords and axes, penetrating, which is bows, spears, and daggers, or bludgeoning, or crushing, however you want to call it, but bludgeoning, which uses clubs, hammers, maces, staves, staffs, and so forth. And then you're going to select 3 more skills from the list. And I have a number of them. I have athletics, beast ride, bushcraft, craft item, deft hands, examine, expert artisan, lore, search, sneaking, speechcraft, spellcasting, weapon master, willpower. I think there's like 15 or more there. And your GM can create more if you want to add that to your game. Make that a suggestion. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe in high interaction between the players and the GM. So, for example, I didn't go into the minutia of like, since this is a 28-page thing, and it's like, oh, a torch, there are a lot of great systems out there. You can use, I could have wrote, oh, a torch lasts exactly this many rounds or this much time or whatever, but I didn't worry about time or time management, basically, only in combat situation. It's all, if you've played enough and if you're going to be the person that GMs, you're going to have an idea what makes sense. You're going to either go, that torch is probably going out about now. It's been out long enough. Or you might be one of those people that use that system that uses a timer. You hit a 60-second thing, and as you're playing, and all of a sudden your beeper goes off. It's like, oh, your torch is about to go out. Okay, whatever you want to do. I didn't do all that little minutia here. But let's just look at one of the skills. Let's choose bushcraft. I actually got this wording from, I'm a pretty big fan of that Dragonbane. And I kind of extended some of the abilities and pulled it into what I wanted it to specifically be. But I like the terminology of it, which is kind of like survival in some other games that you may have played. So bushcraft, this skill allows you to track creatures through the wild. It can help you survive by finding shelter, predicting the weather, and determining direction. It shows you how well you can fish, hunt game, and forage for all necessities in all environments. You can even use bushcraft to start a fire with enough time and minimal resources. So basically, you got tracking in there, you've got building shelters, fishing, hunting, that are just beyond the normal, like using your weapons to try to shoot a random deer running. This can actually aid towards those things. But you have several to choose from. So you're going to choose your weapon class skill, and then you're going to choose 3 more skills. And there you go. There are no attribute scores because it's not necessary in this game because of the core mechanic. So based upon succeeding or failing is based upon your race and the skills that you choose. And you're up and rolling. And so the next thing you need to do is just get some coins. You'll roll a D20, and you'll either start off with 150, 350, or 600 coins. I am going to read this opening here to explain to you because the dwarves are dead. So ever since the dwarves' supply of gold stopped flowing, the currency standard is silver coins, noted as C. Occasionally, adventurers return from questing from old dwarven mines flush with gold nuggets. Gold, if pressed into coins, are worth 50 times that of silver. 1 gold coin is also referred to as 1 wealth with a W. And so it kind of sets a precedent that the standard is silver in the game, and silver coins mainly. But, you might find a golden goblet somewhere. So that golden goblet might be like, 10 wealth. But if it's pressed in the coins or melted, maybe you could get more out of it because the coins are like a prestigious thing. So you'll probably get more value by recycling it. But it is a beautiful item. Some collectors love stuff just made from gold. That's hard to get too. So but that's all based upon your role-playing experience with your GM. So the next thing I titled is Let's Take a Swing at Combat. So the only real thing is here that I added, and I will explain the actions on your turn. But, you can use a tried and true method that you like for initiative, or you can add in what I like. I'm a big board gamer as well, and in those games they have what they call a first player token, and I kind of was inspired by that for this mechanic because I think it adds a nice quick resolution and gives everybody an equal chance to respond and do things and be interactive when you have encounters. So, so it says, at the start of the game, the player to the left of the GM will be handed a token called the initiative coin. It can initiative token. It can be a coin or a poker chip or whatever you want. Before combat, if one party is surprised, the entire surprising party will act first, which is pretty common sense. Okay, otherwise, the GM will make an opposing roll versus the player who has the initiative token. So what happens is, let's say Dana, my friend over here, she's got, she's playing the elf Trixie or something. I don't know whatever she's going to call her elf name. It's usually some sort of seedy little character. Yes, I'm talking to you, my friend. So she, I would roll versus her and then either all the people, the monsters will all act, or now all your players will act, the player characters. And so, but she has the initiative token. So starting with her, she will get to take her actions first, and then in clockwise order, I'm doing like this, but I realize on the camera it probably looks like that to you, but I'm doing it clockwise for me, so, whatever. But anyway, after the entire combat is resolved, the initiative, that encounter is done, the initiative token passes clockwise to the next player, so the next time there's an incident, that player will be rolled to gets a chance to roll versus to see which party will act first. And whenever it's time for the player character to act first, the middle person now, or the second person, will get to act first and then continue around. So it's kind of a nice, interesting system, take on it. Anyway, I thought it was, and I've never seen it really done before in a role-playing game, but I thought that's a great thing to bring over and kind of mix it in. So anyway, the actions you can take on your turn. So on your turn, you'll be able to take 2 actions, and that could be, and it doesn't matter, like movement or combat or whatever, but basically the actions, you can move, you can attack, you can make a skill roll, such as like spellcasting or willpower. Willpower also has a little bonus. I didn't read that particular skill, but it also works as a saving throw, but there might, or, like versus mental attacks or things trying to maybe ethereally penetrate your body like a spirit or something. But willpower also can give you a bonus to your next roll. So you can take your first action to boost your next action. So the likelihood of you passing is very good, which could be worth it. Or you could take a chance and I'm going to just swing my sword twice with a 7+. Or you can swing once and get a +3 bonus if you make your willpower check on the first one, Anyway, so let's see. You can move, you attack, you make a skill roll. Oh, and you can pick up a prone item is what I put in here. Sometimes you'll lose something important during a skirmish. You need to pick it up, or you just might see something very useful. Now, there are also the free actions, so you can freely grab something that's quickly at hand. If you have a sword or a bow, something that you can just whip out real quick that's on your body and not laying on the ground, or something you got to dig for. If I have a potion in my backpack, that's not easily accessible. I have to open the backpack, go through it, find my, my potion. But if I had made a belt and had it right here, that's fine. That's a free action. You can just grab it and use it. Assuming, I guess, you got a free hand to do so. You can always drop things for free. There's no big deal on that. So anyway, that's how easy combat is. And also in combat, when you deal damage, all your weapons are on a chart, and I can bring it up if I want to here, maybe on a thing, but basically all my damage is preset based upon the weapon. So daggers do 3 points of damage. Now you might choose weapon skills mastery or whatever I got. I forgot whatever I called it here, but weapons master, and it'll add an additional, point of damage and so forth. But there's other things that can add up, and especially as you find better items or magical items, you can actually gain more power. Like a dagger might, I got a magical dagger, it actually does 4 or 5, and it does has some special ability built into it. But it's really easy. And combat and defense, so I have just a small list. So if you're wearing a helm, it gives you not just armor, but it's called armor protection in my game. And so your AP, so to speak, might be, I have, maybe some leather, and I have a shield, and I have a helm. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So my armor protection is 4. So during that entire counter, it works as temporary hit points. So when I receive damage from an enemy, let's say his claw does 2 or something. Well, that'll go against my 4, and for the remainder of that battle, I only have 2 armor left. But if it goes through it, let's say he had a weapon and it did 8, I would soak up 4 of it, take 4, but for the rest of the battle, my armor doesn't reset until a new encounter. A whole new fresh encounter, because it's considered how much you're using at the time. So and that's the way that all the advantages are actually really, sorry, my allergies are really bad today, guys, but, to the players, believe it or not, because, you guys get 2 actions. So, it's very dangerous with melee or even spell casting. Spells are very interesting because the spell casting works, thusly that, I really love Gandalf, watching the old things and how important his staff is to him. And then I was reading another role-playing system out there that I loved a long time ago called Cairn, and I think it's Cairn that you have to read spells. Anybody can read it, and you have to read it, but you have to have 2 hands on the book and you just read it aloud. But my whole thing is kind of combining it. You have to have your spell book open, and you have to be holding or touching a staff to be able to cast your spells. So when you cast a spell, you're reading it off the page. You flick through it. That's the one. You cast your spell. If you make your roll, you're a spellcaster, so you probably just need 7 or higher. Then you can continue to cast that spell over and over and over until you fail. Once you fail, then your spellbook is kind of magic. So I didn't go all, like I said, into the minutiae of explaining, but the spell disappears off the page for 24 hours from that point. And that spell will not reappear, and you will not have access to that spell until the passage of time. So it's pretty easy. So you might have a spell like one of my spells is called Fire Cubes, and it's kind of like works like many little fireballs. You're like a cross between magic missiles and fireballs. And so you can shoot out like one big one or divide up the damage. And as long as you keep making your roll, you still get that spell. You can cast it all day. But you make a couple of fails and you have access to none of your spells in your, that you have. And so all the spells are readily available. It doesn't have, you don't have to learn them. You don't have to prep them. You just have to have them in your spell book. And they're so daunting that, you have to read them, So anyway, that pretty much covers spells. I will read a random spell here for you that I made up. I put like a dozen in here. Actually, I think I put 11. I may have wrote a dozen, so there might be a small errata on my thing. But let's grab a fun one. So I put this in here. You like danger? So do I. So you might want to cast Temporal Loop. This could save your life. So Temporal Loop, it says tampering with time is dangerous. Even if you succeed casting this spell, it will fade from your spell book for 7 days, and you'll age a year. So just by messing with time, you don't get to cast a spell again for a week, but it's very dangerous because you're going to lose a year of your life. So assuming the GM goes, oh, well, your race lives to be 150, maybe that's not such a bad idea. But the whole thing is, if you're successful, you can rewind time up to 1 minute or, whatever that is in your game terms, probably around, as typically 1 minute happens a lot and around, sometimes just a few seconds to some people, but it's a chance to change the course of something, to stop something, to take another turn at something, to let somebody do something else. It's very dangerous, but it could be that. But the one big bad problem is if you have a mishap, you roll a 1, a complete failure, then you have to roll the 20-sided die and you will age twice that number. So if I rolled a 12, my character will age 24 years on a mishap. So be aware, danger, danger. All right, and one of the near last sections things I got here is monsters and such. And I go over a bunch of different monsters. Most of them are iterations or changes I've made of monsters I love, but some of them are stuff that maybe I've created in the past. So maybe I kind of drug those ideas and just kind of rewrote them out for this system, which made it nice, but it made it easy to describe. So that's how I was able to write so quickly. Is because the system's so easy, and I just had to come up with, a more descriptive, because some people don't like descriptions about their monsters. I like knowing about them. I want to know what they do. I like, that's just me. So let's go with, what would you guys like to hear about? Skulkers, Crusaders. We could do a classic. Okay, every game has an iteration of this. Let's call it the Haunting, which is, okay, so it's a bodiless spirit. It has 15 hit points. And its attack is an ethereal attack at 17 or higher, so it hits on that, and it's 4 damage. Its grouping is 1. Oh, by the way, grouping is the approximate amount of damage, the approximate amount of numbers appearing, basically. So, if you're just going to follow the general rule, you could go, oh, well, 1 usually just shows up. But, I do have under grouping, you can make a roll as the GM and go, hey, is there going to be less or more? And basically, if you roll like 17 or higher, then there's going to be double that amount. There'll be 2 hauntings. And in this case, if you roll less than that, then it's still going to be 1 haunting because it's half rounded up. So it would go down from 1 to 0.5 back up to 1. But some things are dangerous. Some things have an appearing of 10. So you're going to either face 5, 10, or 20 if you use that chart. Okay, so their special abilities are body possession and stunning target. Hauntings are lost spirits trying to find their way back into the material plane of existence. They try to enter a humanoid body by flying into it using an ethereal penetration attack. If the attack hits, the defender makes a willpower roll to become possessed and controlled by the lost spirit. If the willpower save succeeds, the entity passes through the body, causing 4 cold damage, and the target is temporarily stunned, losing their turn. If a possessed body is killed or rendered unconscious, the haunting will leave that body looking for a new one to possess. At the beginning of each round, any possessed player makes a willpower roll to force the haunting out of their body. If they succeed, they will take 2 cold damage, but it's temporarily out of them. At the beginning of each round, so I did cover that. So anyway, the last note is spells and magic weapons do normal damage against hauntings. Otherwise, attacks only do a 2 maximum points. So if you want to do better damage, then you need to either have a magical weapon or a spell. If not, all your hits are going to do 2, and they have 15 hit points. So they're one of the harder things to vanquish in this game, especially at lower levels. Anyway, I won't cover that. But the last little thing that I added in here is I put in adventure hooks. So I put in I think 8 adventure hooks. You can just roll the D20 and it'll kind of start you off like, okay, here you go. It might just have a small situation or it might give you a bigger thing. So here's one. Let's just say you rolled a 1 or a 2 just for a random adventure hook. A fellow traveler named Gonlin hires the party to help retrieve a cache of gold nuggets from a remote part of a dwarven mining system. The rub is that Gonlin stole his ancient map that he's using from a wealthy noble whilst visiting a fancy city called Tegnara. Lord Artie has dispatched bounty hunters to retrieve the map and kill Gonlin. So the whole thing is, it's almost on a time clock, right? So that sets up a little bit deeper than some of them. Some of them I just set up at the very beginning and don't give you the whole thing. But if you're just kind of stuck or you just want some inspiration, I put that at the end. But this covers everything you need to know to play. But better than that is you can go to DriveThruRPG and download this for free. It's under the pay what you want. I mean, it does have a donation thing if you want to donate, but you don't have to. You can click the payment thing and put 0, and then you can just download it for free if you want your own copy. And I would be delighted to get feedback or hear from you. And like I said, you may know just from me talking about it if this system's for you. But if you're looking for just something to read or maybe some of the parts of this game to incorporate into your own games or some rule that you may like or some creature that you may like, then feel free and download it. Like I said, there is a little thing to the side. If you want to donate 50 cents, you can. I would never say no to that, but it's not necessary. I want you just to enjoy it. And as always, thank you for watching. It means so much. I appreciate you. Happy gaming, and continue to be the best player and GMs that you can be.